Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing the most OP Bard build in Baldersgate 3. So this is just going to be 12 levels of Bard. There are some really great synergies with the Bard class, but this was a request and I wanted to get this done. So we're playing as a high half-elf here, and so the Bard is kind of it's a caster. It has the full casting, so it gets up to level 6 spells. And what's nice about Bard is it can play a variety of roles, and I think it's one of the most optimal classes if you want to play as the face of your party. So, for our cantrips, you're typically not going to be using a lot of cantrips in the game, True Strike being the worst cantrip of all. It uses an action to make advantage. Friends is a great one, as you're going to be the face of your party. This helps outside of combat, and that's really great, gives you advantage on charisma checks. And then for the second cantrip, I really like Minor Illusion. The reason being is you can use an illusion to draw people away if you want to steal something, or you can use it to gather enemies together to do a fireball. So lots of utility there, and we're going to get a little bit further into this and explain why we want those. But for the Bard spells, the Bard has some very wide-ranging spell options, but some of the best spells are later on in the game, obviously. So Speak with Animals is one that I always like to have on, just because it's useful for a variety of role-playing reasons. And the Bard, again, being the face of the party, is very important to have that. Sleep is actually a pretty powerful spell to have. You can use it between multiple different enemies. Early in the game, this can be actually quite powerful. Tash's Hideous Laughter is another one that's pretty great, and I think that is probably what we're going to be going with. Dissonant Whispers is another enchantment spell that we can use, but we're typically going to be attacking with a Bard. It's nice to have Healing Word too, so you can heal anyone that you can see, versus the Cure Wounds, which can heal anyone you can touch. It's nice to have ranged options always in this game. That's typically the best way to go about it. You can take Dissonant Whisper, or you can take Thunderwave if you prefer, but I think that Sleep is actually quite a powerful spell to have alongside Tash's Hideous Laughter. Your starting instrument really just depends on what you want to roleplay as. Lute or Lyre is kind of the ones that I go for. And your abilities. Now, this is where things can get really different depending on where you are in the game. So Strength, you kind of want to dump it, but you can also get the Hill Giant Gloves late in Act 3. That's going to give you 23 Strength, which will help with your overall Strength saving throws as well as carry capacity. For our spell, we want Charisma to be at 17. This is good. If you get the Hag's Hair, you can take that up to 18 early in the game, and then use your first ability to bring it up to 20. That's kind of priority here. Intelligence, we can go something like that. Intelligence is going to be somewhat important for us, as we do use that later on, potentially, on some spells, but something like this will look good. Dexterity, we want to be our second highest for avoidance, and the Bard has a hard time getting hit by enemies later on in the game, but that's typically what we're going to roll with for that first level. Now, getting into things, this is just strictly 12 levels of Bard. I want to reiterate that, as there's some really great synergy between Bard and Fighter, Thief. Like, I'll be doing videos on those later on as I put together builds, but for the strict 12 Bard that I've played, I'm just going to run through what I think worked best for me. Now, some of these you can... I would prefer just using a scroll instead of taking it as a spell. So things like Fairy Fire don't really scale off anything. I think Thunderwave is pretty decent just to push enemies away. But again, early on spells are typically not ones that we're going to be using a whole lot, so we can just go on to our next level here. As we get to level 3, this is where the Bard gets its real abilities with its class features. So we're going to be looking at the College of Swords. So we do have the College of Valor, College of Lore. College of Lore would be probably second choice. This gives you the cutting words, use your wit to strike a creature and sap its confidence. But the College of Swords Bard is, I would say, the most effective type of Bard, and I'll get into why here in a moment. So for our spells, Cloud of Daggers, it's hard to compete with that. Any type of crowd control is really nice. Heat Metal is another really nice one, as it does damage and forces an enemy to have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, so you can do that on a boss and really nuke it. I'm going to go with Cloud of Daggers. Detect Thoughts can be another nice one while you're the face of your party, but College of Swords, reason being, you get to choose a fighting style, and I think 2-weapon fighting ends up being the best. When you make an attack with your offhand, you add your ability modifier to the damage of the attack. So Charisma being our ability modifier, this is great. We like this. We can also use medium armor. Weapon Scimitar is a pretty great weapon to roll with. But you also get the slashing flourish, which is kind of the bread and butter of the bard. So this gives you the ability to hit up to 2 enemies at once. And then also the ranged flourish allows you to attack 2 enemies at once as well, wherever it is, right there. So you can use your bow and attack 2 enemies. That's crazy powerful. And as we get into some synergies in this build later on, you'll see why. Mobile flourish is pretty nice, so you can move and teleport to a target. Defensive flourish increases your armor class by 4 if you hit, so that can be very powerful to get your defense up. But we're typically not going to be getting hit often as a bard later on with high dexterity. So that's that for the 3rd level, and as we get into level 4, we're going to start to continue our spell slots, so we get another level 2 spell slot. For our cantrips, Mage Hand or Blade Ward, really. I like Mage Hand, though. That's a pretty good one. Dancing Lights can have some synergy with some other items later on in the game, as well as Light, but anything but True Strike. Vicious Mockery is another decent, like, okay, I guess. Not one I would ever take myself, but Mage Hand's going to be my go-to there. Blindness can be pretty powerful at times, but for their level 2, I think we're going to go with either Heat, Metal, or Hold Person. Now, the nice thing about Hold Person is this gives us great crowd control, and when we upcast this, we can use it on more people. So we're going to take that because crowd control is very important, especially as a bard, because you're going to want to be holding enemies in spot and then hitting them with your ranged options for damage. For our feet, this is where things can get, your build can go a variety of different ways, but I do think that ability improvement is one of the best that we can take, and we're going to bump our charisma up to 18 and dexterity up to 16 with that. So that's what I think is a good one. You can also go with the dual wielder, so you can use 2 weapon fighting if your weapons aren't light, and you get a +1 to armor class. So I think that this one can be pretty great as well. Really, though, it depends on what you think you need more damage or a bit extra armor class and new weapons. So either one of these is a great choice. I would take ability improvement, though. I think that charisma and dexterity is probably the better option to go to. Dexterity is going to give you a bit more damage, but also the less likely to get hit with that because it gives you the +3 to dexterity check. So we like that. So that's that for that level there. Getting into Bard level 5, this is where we get a few more of the Bard's useful skill sets here. So class features, we get the Font of Inspiration. We gain all your Bardic inspirations on a long or short rest. So we do get another short rest. We can, with a Bard, we can have 3 short rests, which is really nice, but restoring Bardic Inspiration on a long or short rest is great. And improved Bardic Inspiration gives you a +1d8 for more damage. We always love extra damage, so we get our level 3 spells here, and there's a few good ones that we'd like to use. Speak with the Dead's great, but you will likely have that necklace that you get early on in the game that can help out with that. I like personally Glyph of Warding. The reason being is this is good for crowd control. You can make it a Glyph of Sleep as well, so you can put enemies to sleep. Very great defensive potential with this, and I think that might be one of the best. Speak of the Dead's could too if you don't want to wear the necklace, and I don't blame you because later on you get way better necklaces to use, or amulets I should say, not necklaces. And here at level 6 is when we get that extra attack, which is super powerful, and something we definitely want is that allows us to do flourishes twice, so doubling our damage output. For the 2nd level, you can take whatever you didn't take last time. Speak with the Dead. I would say probably something like that would be best. Heat Metal too, I didn't take that earlier, so we'll take that now, and that's that for our spells. We also get an action Counter Charm. You and any allies in 9 meters have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. That's quite a nice little thing just to add on there. The Bard, I would say, is best paired with other classes. Like Bard level 10 with 2 levels of Paladin is great. Bard level 6 with 4 levels of Thief and then 2 levels of Fighter is another great build. So those will be done in future videos. This is just going to be strict level 12 Bard. Now, as we get up to here, we get our level 4 spell slots. So there's some great options. Confusion. Underrated spell. Confuse a group of enemies, causing them to attack at random, wander around aimlessly, and occasionally skip turns. So this is a crowd control. This is like Fireball of crowd control, and we love Fireball. Dimension Door can be okay. Freedom of movement. there's better options. Polymorph, there's better options. So confusion, great for crowd control. That's what we want because it allows you to take out a group of enemies and they can attack each other. It's great for, I mean, the main role of a bard. Every class needs to do damage in Baldur's Gate, but the bard has a bit of crowd control that the other classes just don't seem to have. So very powerful. As we get to Bard level 8, we get another spell slot unlocked, and Dimension Door can be really great. You can move enemies around, or you move your team around. That's something that we definitely want to have, as mobility is huge in this game. And then we get our next feat. So we can take our charisma up to 20 here, or we can go with the dual wielder. It's, again, your choice, whatever you think works best for you in terms of what your build needs. I would typically go for the dual wielder. Depends really on what items you have too. So if you have really great heavier weapons that you want to use, I'm just going to take the ability improvement and put our charisma up to 20, because charisma is a very powerful, especially as the face of our party. Level 9, we start to get some more spell slots here, so we get both a level 4 and a level 5 spell slot, and then we unlock level 5 spells, which are powerful. So, Hold Monster. This is something I didn't know until recently, but this works on anything but undead. So, Hold Monster can be used on other characters. You can bind them in place. This is very powerful. It can be upcasted. We also have some healing spells. I would say that probably the best thing to go for would be the Hold Monster, as this can, especially later on, we're going to have a very hard chance of missing this, and taking an enemy out of play, or multiple enemies out of play, is extremely powerful, so that's something that we want to roll with. So we're going to take Hold Monster. Hold Person and Hold Monster, two really great spells that I don't see a lot of people talking about enough, so that's why I wanted to throw these in this build. Now, level up 10 is when things get a little bit crazier. We get another cantrip, so you can take Blade Ward or Dancing Lights. Doesn't matter a whole lot, just whatever you need, I guess. For our level 5 spell slot, disguise 4 members of your party, freedom of movement. I would say that it's probably best to go with either Dominate Person or Mass Cure Wounds. So just having a little bit extra healing is nice, but this is where we get Magic Secrets. Level 10 Bard is actually kind of wild for this. So we can get 2 spells from any other class. Now, this also includes some cantrips like Eldritch Blast. Scorching Ray is one of my favorites. Fireball, obviously, being a very powerful spell. Banishing Smite range, you can possibly banish a target. Now, this is really what you need for your own party's utility. Counterspell is really great. I'm just going to take Counterspell because it's nice to have that ability to shut something down and protect your party. And as a bard, you do get a lot of spell slots, so that's something that's really great. I also like Haste. Haste is pretty great. It does work a little bit differently in heroic mode, so Hunger of Hadar can be great. I like Scorching Ray for damage, and upcasting this can be really great, but I would leave that probably for a dedicated sorcerer. Fireball, pretty good. You can also get some pretty wild things here that typically you wouldn't get. Spike Growth, like, yeah, you get a lot of options at level 10. I'm a personal fan of having Conjure Elementals around because that just gives you the ability to set up a lot of different things. You can have a water elemental that will set wet on a lot of enemies, and you can use electric attacks with your sorcerer. Fireball is not a bad thing to have too, but this is a tough one because it's just filling out what your character and team needs in terms of spells. For attacks, we're typically going to be using Flourish for our attacks, but Conjure Elemental would be nice. If you don't have someone that's already has Conjure Elemental, I would probably take that. Fireball is another good spell to just have in general. Yeah, I'll go Counterspell and Conjure Elemental. This might seem weird for some people, but it's what works best for me. I like to have that ability to have that elemental to change things. It takes away the stress of getting hit from your bard and your healing units, so that can be quite a good choice as well. So we get to choose our skills here, so Intimidation or Persuasion. It's not a huge difference. It's going to go Intimidation and Persuasion. It's good as the face of the party to have those spells or skills. is we get to level 11. The Bard really gets crazy at level 10. But some of the other Bard builds, I think, work a little bit differently. Like, I'm a big fan. There's Bard 10, 2 levels of Paladin. That can be very useful, too, for getting a lot of smites. Actually, could be even better than just pure Paladin. Now, for our level 5 spell, we only got a couple options. Autos, or level 6 spell, we only get Auto's Irresistible Dance or Eye Bite. Your eyes become black corners, walled in teeth. Your gaze capable of inflicting dread, sickness, or putting creatures to sleep. Spooky name. I like Auto's Irresistible Dance just because it's funny, and I think they did change some things. You used to be able to use this on, not going to name any names, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's an end boss that can be trivialized with this. I don't know if that's still in effect. I'm right before that boss in this game, but that's what we're going to take for level 11 and then into the final level. Honestly, though, Bard level 10 and then 2 levels of Paladin can be really great, too. For our final spell, fill out whatever you didn't take prior that you were thinking about. Planar Binding, Mass Disguise, Speak with the Dead, even if you didn't take that before. And then for our final feat, we can take this and pump our dexterity up to 18, or we can take the dual wielder. I think dual wielder is probably the better bet, because then you can dual wield. If you want to dual wield 2 staffs and then 2 crossbows and then use ranged flourish a bunch, that's some utility there. But the College of Sword Bard does have a lot of ability to deal damage. As a charisma user, there's lots that you can do with this. So I just have the staff and shield on here, but you can dual wield 2 staffs, and that has its own set of utility. There's a lot you can do with this build, so I encourage you to check it out and try out a few different things. But I'm going to be doing a few builds. Bard level 10 with 2 levels of Paladin is going to be one video. Bard level 6, so you get that extra attack, with 4 levels of Thief for the extra bonus action, and then 2 levels of Fighter for action surge. That can be crazy burst damage, so expect videos for those 2 as well coming out at some later date. But there it is, Bard level 12. This was a requested video, so I wanted to get this done and help you guys all out. There it is. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.